Welcome everyone to another episode of Horror Movies Hub Presents. I am your host Carter Lee, and joining me once again, the Intern of Evil, Christian. Hey Christian, how are you?
Good, how are you, Carter?
I am doing super swell this evening. Really looking forward to talking about Fear Street Part 1, 1994.
Yeah, that was a fun movie to watch. I'm excited to get into it.
I mean, isn't it fun? I can't get enough of that trilogy. and the first one is a dandy. So let's get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Fear Street Part 1, 1994, rated R for awesomeness. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 47 minutes, directed by Lee Janiak. And of course, it's based on the books by R.L. Stine. However, it's not based on any particular one story of his. Instead, they just kind of captured the essence and characters of Stine. And he apparently loved it. And so they did a really good job. And shockingly to some, I have read none of his work.
Wow, no Goosebumps.
No Goosebumps, no Fear Street, and I can't name another one. So
it's part of more of my childhood, so that makes sense.
I guess. I mean, the Fear Street and Goosebumps were around when I was.
So you were just a little baby.
Well, no, I was like a young adult. I was like 12.
Okay.
13. But by that point, I was already reading like Stephen King and other things. So
you're too good for it.
Yes, I'm too good for a lot of things. No, I'm actually more tempted to read it now than I was then. I just, for whatever reason, I never got any. No. But the good news is you don't need any knowledge of R.L. Stine's work, as amazing as I'm sure it is, for this movie to be good.
Mm-hmm.
So screenplay is by Phil Graziadel and Lee Janiak, based on the stories by R.L. Stine, and it stars Kiana Madeira as Dina, Olivia Scott Welch as Samantha Fraser, Benjamin Flores Jr. as Josh, Julia Raywald as Kate, Maya Hawke as Heather, Charlene Omai, pardon that pronunciation, Charlene, if you ever listen to this, she plays Rachel, David Thompson as Ryan, Daryl Brett Gibson as Martin, Ashley Zuckerman as Nick Good, and Noah Garrett, and Daniel Huntington as Skullmask and Sunnyvale Skullmask, respectively. All right. So the movie opens and we see a young teenage clerk, Heather, at a B. Dalton's book in Shadyside Mall. And immediately, I really love this movie because I spent a great deal of my childhood years in B. Dalton books in a mall. So that was neat.
Wow.
Actually picked. Yeah, it's out of business now. I think there's only 3 retail bookstores left.
Well, bring it back now because we said it.
So she is selling a woman a book called The Wrong Number, and the customer, this is like a wink to the audience and to R.L. Stine, says it's a trashy, lowbrow horror book. This book in the scene is a title by an R.L. Stine novel. So that's a legit book, and it is the 5th book in the Fear Street series.
How many are there?
Don't know.
Okay.
That part. But the main character in the Wrong Number book is Dina, and the main character in our movie is Dina. So there you go. So the mall is closing for the evening, and Heather makes a call to her friend Ryan, who works in a store near hers. But the call is suddenly cut off, and she goes out into the mall, and all the lights are off, and only a young janitor, Martin, is there in the empty corridors of Shadyside Mall. And Ryan sneaks up behind her with a sex doll to scare the hell out of her. And she says she doesn't want to walk home alone. So Ryan says, give me 15 minutes to close up and I'll meet you. So homegirl, boy, is he about to meet her. So homegirl heads back to the bookstore to finish up some things. And we get a glimpse of a bunch of books by R.L. Stine, but it's under the name Robert Lawrence. And that is what the R and L actually stand for. So that's kind of, yeah. And those are all legit books. So we were about to get our first on-screen kill of the movie out of many. And so our young clerk sees that there's this one lonely book randomly placed in one of the aisleways of the bookstore, and she goes to pick it up. and we see a glimpse of a shadowy figure in the background. And then there's another book, and a spilled orange Julius, which gave me more flashbacks. I mean, they're just really hitting all of the retro things. And the killer appears, and he's dressed in dark clothing with a skull mask and a skeleton torso shirt. And this character is known as Skullface. And the Skullface costume was inspired by R.L. Stine's Halloween Night 2 from the Point Horror book series.
I'm not familiar, but
I think we should be, though.
We should, especially. I might catch up after watching this movie, because now knowing that it's by R.L. Stine and how much of a fan of Goosebumps I am, it's definitely something I should definitely go back and do now that I can pay respect to this movie.
You've read some Goosebumps then?
Like 6, 7, I think, around there.
Oh, wow.
Whatever we had in our school library, really.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, so you're a fan then of the Goosebumps.
Yes, I'd say that.
I read the movie with Jack Black, and I enjoyed that very much. So Skullface goes to stab Heather in the stomach, but she's holding a book, and that book momentarily saves her life. She runs into another store. It's like a Spencer's gift-like store, and she calls the police. The killer follows her and stalks her inside the Spencer's gifts. And she's up against the wall against other skeleton masks looking for signs of the would-be killer. And one of the masks turns out to be, Skullface, of course.
Classic.
And very classic. Still very effective. He grabs her from behind and slashes her stomach. She runs, and the cat and mouse game continues inside Spencer's. He goes to stab what he thinks is the young clerk, but in like this photo booth, but it turns out to be the sex doll. And then from behind, she says, "Hey," and hits the killer over the head with a lava lamp. And so I was about to say, like, why? And not just horror, they do it in thrillers too, and action movies. Before you hit someone, they say, "Hey," as if the face is the best part to hit them. Hit them in the back of their head. It's very effective.
I find the equivalent of that in video games is when people yell at the top of their lungs, "I'm reloading." Yes. Because they're like, I have no possible way to shoot you right now.
So I should shoot now.
So I should let you know.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So she hits him in the head with a lava lamp, and she runs out into the mall, and we see one of the mall employees is dead. And the killer catches up to her and stabs her from behind. And this whole sequence, he turns her over on her back and continues to stab her. And this whole sequence, from the moment he's approaching her from behind to the stabbings, is a total homage of the beginning sequence in Wes Craven's Scream.
Sure.
So I enjoyed, which you will see eventually. I enjoyed that a lot. And for those who may be tuning into this episode of Horror Movies Hub Presents, and you didn't listen to the first few, which you should, our intern of evil, Christian Conley, is new to the horror genre, and this show is essentially introducing him to all sorts of horror.
And those last few movies, I definitely recommend you watching them, because those are some of my favorites ever. And I've watched other movies outside of horror, and these still took my attention.
Oh yeah, you and that's saying something, because you've watched a ton of movies outside of horror.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not a cinematography noob, but I am a horror noob.
Exactly. And we covered Poltergeist and then Oculus, and now we're doing this one. So we're 3 for 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to intentionally pick a bad one that's so bad it's good kind of thing at some point. But for now,
I can't wait to groan at that.
High quality. What's that?
I can't wait to groan at that.
Oh, exactly. You get the right so bad it's good. It's a lot of fun, you know. And then if you get the wrong one, it's just bad and boring and no point.
Mm-hmm.
So he's stabbing his victim here, and she pulls off the mask, and we see that the killer is none other than Ryan, the same guy who was going to walk her home, and that was pretty well established they were good friends. She says his name and pleads with him, and then Sheriff Good enters the scene and shoots the killer in the head, zombie murder style.
Wow. What a great name, Good.
Yes. There's lots of foreshadowing in this book between Shady Side and Sunnyvale and Good. And
it's a little bit on the nose, but it got that out of the way. It was just like, now you know what's going to happen.
Yep. And we get the opening credits after that with some nice exposition of what's been happening in Shady Side and Sunnyvale, which are very polar opposite of each other. One town is a murder capital, and the other one is peaceful, all-American town. And we see newspaper clippings and glimpses of articles blaming witches for killings and a bunch of serial killers. And in Sunnyvale, though, the sun always shines, even when it's cloudy.
It makes you physically like want to throw up in your mouth. You're like, oh,
I know.
I don't like this town already.
I don't like either town. I'm like, is there something?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to live in shady side either.
Yeah, I don't need shady. I don't need sunny. What's in between? So
what state it's in?
What's that?
You know what state it is in?
Ohio.
Ohio,
and I think Shadyville is an actual town in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Or it's Sunny. One of those is like an actual town in Ohio.
Got you.
Yes. So we now meet two key characters, Dina and her younger brother, Josh. Josh is chatting in an AOL chat room, and he shouldn't have been in 1994, but that's fine. And they actually get a lot of things wrong in 1994 because there's a lot of music they play where the characters can hear the same songs we can hear, and most of them are from 95 and 96. So, not a big deal, but just, kind of like, And the AOL chat room, it did exist in 94, but it was called something else, I want to say. But anyways.
They should just change the name to the movie to Fear Street Part 1, 1994, with an asterisk at the end.
Yes, 1990 something.
Or like in quotation marks, like 1994. Like we're just like, we're just throwing it up there, see what sticks. That's around. It's close enough.
They really wanted to play White Zombie, so they cheated with that one, and they cheated with some others. And the one where later on, just to not to jump ahead, but when we first see the character of Nurse Betty, Whitetown is played, and that was like 2 or 3 years later that came out. They might have even been as late as like 98 or 99.
Mm-hmm. That was a pretty. I think that I could think it could even reach 2000, to be honest, but. What I want to quickly, while we're already talking about the music, can we just go ahead and say, great soundtrack?
Yes.
As an alternative rock fan as myself, fantastic soundtrack. Love Creep. Love White House. I love every single little freaking song they put in there. I was jamming out to every single transition.
Oh, yeah. No, it's very, very good. And the soundtrack is on point minus the accuracy of the ear.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I love this movie and everything about it. And the first time I saw it, I wasn't sold on it until, I'll get to when I was officially sold that this will be good. Mm-hmm. So we meet the two. So Josh is chatting, Dina's younger brother, and with his friend, and they're comparing the recent mall murders to past murders in Shadyside. And we see Sheriff Good is interviewed by a news reporter and says there are several victims from the recent stabbing between the ages of 16 and 42. So we know this killer does not discriminate.
Not at all. That's a very big difference in age.
Yeah, they just want the people to die, or we'll see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we Dina is walking the aisles of her high school, and she is looking at various couples holding hands, which we can assume she is jealous of for a couple of reasons. We know that she broke up with her closest or her closeted girlfriend, Sam, and perhaps she's also a little sickened by the hand holding because she was never able to openly express that kind of affection with her now ex-girlfriend. So this is in 1994. I graduated in 1995, and I can say that did you just say ew? Because I graduated in 95. So ew. So I can say in the 90s that in my high school personally, there was only 2 people that I was aware of that were openly gay. Mm-hmm. And it was not as accepted as it is now. You probably had a different experience in your high school years.
Yes. Again, still not commonplace because there's a lot of scariness out there for them because it is a big risk to let themselves be known. But this is just for an announcement for all you guys out there. It's okay. There are people who will support you, but it's still not commonplace because I feel like too many people are scared to just admit it. But yes, sure. my high school experience was very different. There was a lot more than just 2.
So we have seen improvements then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's saying something because you went to high school in Houston and I went to high school outside of D.C. So I can imagine how it still is scary in some regards.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. But hats off to this movie already for giving us main characters that are people of color and also a main character who is, I don't know if she's bisexual, but we know she's lesbian for sure. So we already got some good representation, and this is the right way to do it. A lot of times it seems forced in movies. I love this. Yeah, and I'm starting to get sold at this point, you know? So Dina is in the school bathroom with her friends, Kate and Simon, who should probably not be in there. And they're talking about the curse of the Fear Witch, spelled F-I-E-R. And Dina has no time for this tomfoolery, though, because she has her own shit to worry about. And why, in so many horror movies, as you will learn, Christian, like if it takes place near or in a high school, you're going to end up in the bathroom. Really? It's just interesting. And and like so many horror movies, in this high school's hallways and the surrounding area, we see a lack of adults. So it really puts them in their own world.
Oh yeah, you especially like parental figures. You barely see them at all in the movie.
Yes,
there's the whole parent of what is the last name? The Flores family. Oh no, sorry, that's the actor's name. They actually don't say the last names, do they?
Some do. Are you talking about Dina and
Josh? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and same with their friends. Yeah, and that's a common thing with horror movies, especially ones centered around teens, like teen slashers and whatnot, is the parental figures, if they are involved, they're worthless. And if it's, someone that's supposed to protect you, like an officer or something, they don't believe you. And they really, which is kind of like real life, but they really do the best they can in a lot of these horror movies, and it's become a trope now, but to put these older teenagers on their own. So it's us versus them kind of thing.
Okay, but to be fair, as a question, would you believe them if you were a cop?
No, well, in this instance, no, and also not in the Nightmare on Elm Street, where they didn't believe him either. So, but that turned out to be a cover up, and we'll get there, the Nightmare on Elm Street thing. But yeah, no, for sure. And you're right, it's fanciful tales. It sounds like so.
Like Frank, they're high schoolers, they pull pranks all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And so Dina, we flash forward, and Dina's on her little bus ride home, and we get a glimpse of Shady Side as they travel to the sunny side of town. And we see that it's spray painted over Shady Side shitty, so it reads Shitty Side, which is pretty accurate looking at all the dilapidation going on. And
that's a high school education right there. That is clever.
That's very clever, very witty. Those young Turks. So they're on their way. This bus trip's taking them to the vigil for the young woman who was just murdered at the beginning of the movie. And the only Sunnyvale students that show up are the ones that had to, i.e. the football players and cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And Dina and Sam see each other at this vigil. Sam is dating the quarterback at Sunnyvale, and all hell breaks out. Dina calls Sam out for being ashamed of being a lesbian, and Sunnyvale and Shady Side students break out into a fight, and it's just a whole thing. So on the bus trip back to Shady Side, there's these Sunnyvale students in the car, which includes Sam and the quarterback guy, which we'll get to. And Dina and another student in the bus, cheerleader Kate, open up the back door of the bus, and they have one of those big jugs of Gatorade that you dump on the coach after you win the Super Bowl. And they're looking to throw the Gatorade on the windshield, but Dina's nose starts to bleed, and they lose control of the giant Gatorade jug thingy, and the jug itself hits the car, causing it to crash. And Dina demands a bus stop. And Sam is crawling out of the car wreck and sees a vision of the Fear Witch.
Dun dun dun.
So Sarah's
they missed an opportunity to spell Fear Street with F-E-I-R.
Yes. Well, it's a play on words. Fear Street, Fear Street.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, we thank you for listening to Horror Movies Hub Presents, and we hope you are enjoying the show. I just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about ShopHMH.com, the official store for Horror Movies Hub. And we have a great sale happening there. All our shirts are soft, semi-fitted, so they look great on every body type. Trust me, they look great on me, they will look great on you. And they feature original in-house designs, and many of them are on sale at a great value. Beyond our horror and Halloween shirt collection, we are also the official shop of Smart Wrestling Fan, and we have original, one-of-a-kind, customizable breast cancer shirts as well. As many of you know, my wife Lorraine is currently a breast cancer warrior, and Lorraine herself assisted me in creating many of these designs. Support a small business and a good cause by ordering yours today at shophmh.com. Again, that's shophmh.com for original horror shirts and beyond. And now, back to the show. So Fear Street is a street which I believe we're introduced to in the second movie.
Oh, okay.
We actually don't see it in this movie. So it's coming. It's coming.
All right.
So Sarah's taken to the hospital, and Sheriff Good interviews students from both schools. And, of course, they all play it cool and say it was just an accident. The next night, Dina calls the hospital to check on Sam, and her mom answers the phone in the hospital room and tells Dina that she is ruining Sam's life. And Josh is playing Castlevania Bloodlines, which I played loved.
A great transition.
Yes.
Yeah, Dina's getting told that she's wasting her friend's life, but this guy's playing Castlevania.
Yes. Well, at the same time, she's trying to make calls. You know, they all live together. They're siblings. So he's playing Bloodlines and doesn't hear the doorbell ring a bunch of times. So Dina goes to open the door, and of course, no one is there. So what do you do in a situation? What everyone does in horror movies, you step out and look around. And she sees a person in the same skeleton garb. She sees Skull Mask. And she assumes it's the D-bag Peter, the quarterback that's dating Sam, who was driving the car. Mm-hmm. And she yells at him to go back in the house. And Dina takes pizza out of the oven, looks out the kitchen window, and she sees Skull Mask closer this time. And he's holding a knife with current blood stains on it. Looks fresh. Good times.
Very.
So she still thinks this is Peter. Josh is in the kitchen at this time, and Dina grabs a knife of her own and goes outside, and Skull Mask is gone. So we then see Kate and Simon, who are babysitting children while sorting drugs and pills to deal. And she warns the kids that are under their charge not to take the drugs. So very good. Right. Excellent.
Yeah, good babysitting.
Yes, great babysitting. So Sam calls Kate and tells her that she just saw Peter, and we can see that their houses are only a few blocks away from each other, and they kind of flicker the lights on the porch to signal to each other. Mm-hmm. So now at this point, we hear a noise in the house, and the lights go off, and Skull Mask is in the living room. And Kate now thinks this is a Sunnyvale douche and doesn't seem too alarmed, which regardless of who's underneath that mask, even if you think it's especially if you think it's the people you fought with the night before, perhaps you should be a little alarmed. And so Simon's shirt was off, and he sees it lying on the ground, and it's covered in Sam's blood from the day before, and he puts it on, and Kate and Simon drop the kids off with their neighbor. No signs of Skullface when they look for him in the house. They drop the kids off with the neighbor. And we can talk briefly about this neighbor, but just to let you know, and here's a clue for you, Christian, the neighbor's name is Mary Lane. Mary Lane. So we'll get to another Lane in a moment. All right, so now we have Kate, Simon, Dina, and Josh all together, and they're planning their revenge on Peter and Sam. And so that's kind of our group for this movie, this foursome. So the fearsome foursome. Oh, see, they missed an opportunity there. Mm-hmm. So the four of them head to the hospital, and the hospital has flickering lights. It looks very creepy and abandoned inside, like not a lot of patients would be there. And this is very similar to the hospital scene in Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, the Electric Boogaloo.
I agree. Yeah.
Very convincing, Christian. So the front desk woman is rude to the foursome, and that's when they ask for Nurse Betty. which is Eddie with a B carved in front of it, Betty. So we can infer that this is a trans person, and this person is introduced by Whitetown.
It's a good song for that. And it's also just a great song in general.
It is. We got the little Star Wars sample in there. It's a lot of fun. And the hospital seems empty. Dina is taken to Sam by Nurse Betty and confronts Sam about her boyfriend, Peter. And Sam says that Peter couldn't have been Skull Mask because Peter has been with her this whole time. And then Peter enters the room, and Kate, Josh, and Simon are in the hallways getting candy bars from a machine that Josh hacked in a way that no vending machine could ever be hacked.
Yep.
You can't press random buttons on it and give you every candy, but that's cool. I'm not knocking it, just a little bit of silliness there.
Hey, man, you don't know Josh. Josh can be amazing.
Oh, Josh is amazing. And it would have been more convincing if he just reached his little hand in there, though. But, Sam calls Dina total chaos, and they argue. And in the middle of this, we hear a knife stab skin. And Peter has a knife protruding through his gut, and we see Skull Mask.
No, it's Peter killed Peter.
Yes, right? So Sam and Dina come running through the hallway, and yell run. And Simon asks if they got back together, which I thought was funny. Not the time.
Good comedic relief.
Yes.
He's very good. He throughout the whole movie, he had me laughing.
Yeah, he got on my nerves the first couple times I saw him, and then he had me cracking up. So Sam and Dina are still in the hospital hiding, and then the other three make it to the parking lot and get in the ambulance to escape. So now we have a fivesome. So we then see the front desk woman has been killed. Nurse Betty enters and gets stabbed in the neck swiftly, and Skullface sees Sam and Dina hiding. Then the rest of the trio pull up in an ambulance. The mask falls off of Skullface. During their escape, we get to see that it is still Ryan donning a hole in his head where Sheriff Good shot him.
Now we're dealing with zombies.
Yep. So now this is when I have officially bought into this movie. Because it's breaking a lot of tropes. Not so much the undead, but the reveals and all that. So for the tropes it keeps in. What's that?
It reveals a lot earlier than you think.
Yes, and that's how I knew this was going to be different and good. So we flash forward to the police department where Martin, the janitor from the beginning, is in jail for tagging or spray painting. And the teens show up at the station with a stolen ambulance. Sam and Dina talk to Good while the others remain outside in the ambulance, which is not smart. You should never split up in a horror movie. And they tell Good that it was Ryan who just tried to kill them. And of course, because he shot Ryan, he doesn't believe them. And he asks if Ryan looked more like Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead. And you're right. Who can blame him?
Yeah.
All right. So outside, Simon is pissing and the streets look dead and empty. And Good heads to the hospital after receiving a call, and Dina sneaks a gun off the deputy.
That's smart.
Yep. And that was smart in this case, since no one believes him. What can you do?
Steal a gun.
Yeah, steal a gun. That's the worst that happens.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Simon takes care of his business, and he sees a woman alone near a light post in the fetal position, and she looks very creepy. And she takes out a blade, and Simon checks on her and cuts his leg. And meanwhile, Dina is showing her friends the gun she got and said that they need it because no one believes them and they are on their own.
It's true.
So Simon and Creepy Girl continue to fight in the street, but before she can kill him with the straight edge blade, Dina shoots her in the head. The bullet goes through the eye, and the girl then gets back up, and the eye heals.
Terminator.
All right, so now we have. Yeah, exactly. So, Simon says she was hot and normal until she attacked me with a razor blade.
Yeah, Arnold does that sometimes.
Yes. So Josh connects this with the past murderer, Ruby Lane, who is the daughter of the woman who the kids were dropped off later.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see more of her in the next movie. But Ruby Lane which is the same girl they just shot who healed. And Ruby Lane killed her boyfriend and friends in 1965 before taking her own life by slitting her wrists. And then Josh fills them in because he's like true crime guy of Shady Side. He fills them in on the other Shady Side killers. We have 1978's Masked Psycho, who has like a sack over his head, and he killed a bunch of kids at Camp Nightwing with a double-edged axe.
I bet he'll show up.
Oh, I bet you he will. And Kate said her mom's sister was there in that camp massacre and has screwed up her family for a long time. Josh also tells them and us, essentially, he's giving us all the background for this, of the 1950 milkman, Harry Rooker, who slashed a bunch of housewives, and we see him plunge a knife into a woman's throat on her lawn. And then in 1935, that brought us the Humpty Dumpty killer, but we don't get much of a story there. In 1922, brought us the deformed Billy Barker kid who wore a creepy, cracked doll-like mask. And he bashed his brothers' heads in while they slept. And we get a brief scene of this gruesome affair. And in 1904, a grifter guts girls. And we can see a scene of a man wearing a metal mask. And he's not gutting someone, but he is drowning someone. And then Josh says the list goes on and on and on. And this happens throughout Shady Side's history where normal people turn into psycho killers. We then see a sketch of 1666's creepy pastor Cyrus, who killed kids and cut out their eyes. It was the first of these killings that were reported, we learn. And Sam goes and throws up. And now we have our gang of killers. And I want a movie done on all of them except for maybe the creepy little Billy Barker.
Yeah,
what do you think of this lineup of baddies?
Seeing how we saw Lane come up next, and he kind of proved that it was that the past killers were coming up and returning. I was expecting to see, like, how are they going to win? There's going to be like an army. There's going to be like 80 of them coming at them.
Yep. Yeah, no, I was wondering how many they were going to introduce. Like, surely it can't be all of them.
It's like, how many jump scares of each person could you have in a movie?
Right.
How many times will Josh say, "Oh, I forgot about this one"? Like, that's what I was completely expecting, just monsters just everywhere this entire movie.
Well, we kind of get it. We kind of get monsters.
Yeah, like 3 or 4.
Yeah, not bad. More than most slashers, so.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, I like it though. I'm at this point, when I first saw it, when it first dropped, I was completely sold on the movie because I'm digging it. I'm digging the story, and I don't know where it's going, but I kind of do, but I don't, and that's what I like about it. So, after Sam pukes, Dina comforts her, and the duo have a bonding moment over Shady Side being doomed. And then Josh fills him in on Sarah Fear, who cursed the town. Fear was hung for witchcraft, and ever since then, she has been possessing people, turning them into killers to get revenge on the town, like the old nursery rhyme, they say. So,
Which Simon knows by heart, right?
Yes, of course. And I didn't bother looking at it. It's just yes. Well, you know, it's like how everyone knew that like Freddy Krueger had his own thing, 1, 2, Freddy's Coming for You. Yeah. And everyone in that town, just like everyone in this town, knows the nursery rhyme because it is, part of their folklore.
Which apparently they're proud of.
Yeah, maybe just more accepting.
Either way.
So,
I agree with that.
So Kate says that this is way worse, though, this time. But why? And Sam says she saw her last night after the accident, that she saw the witch, and then we see it's also a full moon. So it's going to be a hell of a night for this group. So our band of misfit friends here, they take the ambulance and go to the woods where the accident took place and where Sam initially saw the vision of the witch. And the car is still there, which is very weird. Normally that would be cleaned up. And the town does, so they're not into cleaning up after accidents, I guess.
I don't understand why I don't understand people in horror movies. They're like, yeah, let's all 5 of us go into the woods where the witch was.
Well, I think they're trying to figure out how to end it. But yeah, I mean, and no one's going to believe them. But couldn't you wait till daytime maybe? Like, hey, it's a full moon and it's nighttime and we've already seen 2 ghosts try to kill us. Maybe we just chill out.
5 feet in front of you in the woods.
Oh, it's very creepy.
It's just like, come on, guys.
Yeah. And so they look at where Sam fell out of the car, and they find chains connected to a skull with the name Fear carved on the cufflink. And it is here that is revealed Sam disturbed Fear's grave during the accident. So the witch is mad that her grave was disturbed. And Simon says, let's rebury her and put the bones to rest. And then they reference Poltergeist.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yes. So this part is silly, and not because of the supernatural stuff. I buy in as a horror fan. What's silly about this is we're talking about a body like hundreds of years ago that was disturbed by one car accident, and you're telling me it was that close to the surface in the woods?
That would have been either decomposed or deeply buried.
Yeah, deeply buried. And those chains looked pretty new to me. So anyways, can't have everything.
Before 1666, right? That's like 400 years ago.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I just think they could have done a better job of figuring out how to disturb the witch's body than a car wreck that wouldn't even touch the surface of that, But during all this, they hear some noises in the woods, of course, and Sam's nose starts bleeding, and she sees some more witchy visions, including the hanging of Fear. So they rebury the bones, and Simon says sorry, and they hope to the bones, and they hope it worked out. But the masked man from Camp Nightwing comes running out of nowhere, and oddly, he runs right past Josh. And he heads straight for Sam, who sees another vision. And while she's seeing this vision, the Jason Voorhees-like Nightwing killer is approaching closer and closer, and Dina moves Sam out of the way just in time, saving her from being beheaded. And then they all escape safely in the ambulance as the Nightwing killer stands in the middle of the road for a very nice visual of him holding his trusty axe.
Happily ever after.
And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So Simon calls Josh a witch nerd and wants to know why it didn't work. And Sam says they are not coming for us. They are coming for me because I am the one who disturbed her grave. But Dina points out that Ruby also attacked Simon. And Simon has Sam's blood on his shirt from the accident from a couple nights ago. And Dina says, hey, Skull Mask came to my house too. And Sam points out that some of her blood is also on Dina's shoe. So Simon says it's like Jaws and that these killers are smelling the blood. Now, that's fine and dandy. So basically the theory is they're only going after people that have Sam's blood on them and Sam herself. But what about the other people he killed in the hospital? So
in the way.
Yeah, but I mean, Josh was in the way here and he just ran right past her. They killed the front desk woman. I doubt she had any of Sam's blood on her. They killed Nurse Betty, who probably didn't have any blood on her. So it's just
theatrically in the way.
Yeah, that's just a small little plot hole. But ignoring that, I like these rules. And they say, what did they do in Jaws? Pretty sure they didn't go skinny dipping with the goddamn bait. And Josh says, if that's the case, and then Sam is bait, and let's give these jerks what they want. Meanwhile, Sheriff Good arrives at the hospital and sees dead bodies everywhere.
And he say, I told you so.
Right. Now do you believe me? All these people are dead. He also sees a locket in the middle of the road in a little puddle of blood. So on the other side, we have the group head back to the high school to scrub down and change clothes that they get from the Lost and Found. So they are in their high school. And we will see throughout this movie, this group has a great ability to break it into any place without setting out any alarm ever. From high schools to, we'll get
hospitals.
Yeah.
To other people's houses.
Right. Just no problem. No problem. Sure a
lot
at all.
Back there in the 90s.
Oh, sure. I mean,
Way back then.
What 17-year-old doesn't know how to do all this?
Yeah. Josh, that's what he's here for.
Yes. So Dina and Sam have a moment as they're cleaning up, and Simon is in a surprisingly cheery mood as he cleans up by himself in a bathroom, and he just looks very happy for someone who has barely lived through the night and is going through hell. And Josh and Kate clean up in the same bathroom because Kate doesn't want to be alone. Kate asks Josh for help, and they have a little moment there. Simon is alone, flexing in the mirror, and starts touching himself for his own little moment. And Kate and Josh continue their moment in the stall. And it's sweet and innocent the way Kate and Josh kiss. You can almost assume it might be his first kiss. Meanwhile, Sam and Dina have a less of an innocent moment as they go at it. But all of this is interrupted by weird noises in the hallway. And then they all meet in the hallway, and Sam wants to know if they all went to Pound Town because he certainly did. All right. So then their master plan is unveiled. And as Josh explains the plan, we see it like unfold in action. So they cut Sam's palm, mix her blood in a bucket of water, mop it around a bathroom floor. Then they pour some sort of flammable liquid on the floor. And this feels like the climax of the movie, but there's about 40 or so minutes left.
And that's exactly how it's the one thing I hate about watching a movie that's not in cinema is that you could check how much time is left.
You just got to resist the temptation, but clearly I didn't because I noticed there was 40 minutes left. Yep. And so maybe a half hour since credits these days, or 10 or so minutes on their own, you know. Mm-hmm. All right, so Nightwing Killer arrives, and Ruby shows up singing her old-timey songs, which is very creepy, and Skull Mask arrives, so we have 3 of the legendary killers, Ruby, Nightwing Killer, and Skull Mask. And they all walk past the group in the hallway to the trap in the bathroom where Sam is. But as they're about to enter, she escapes through a window as planned, and they lock the 3 psychos in the bathroom and set it ablaze. We hear otherworldly-like screaming, and a final contained explosion happens. And, of course, no fire alarms, and no alarms of any kind throughout this whole ordeal.
Josh is really good at his job.
He is, and that I can buy into more than hacking a vending machine. I'm more angry at that because I've always wanted to just get all the candy from a vending machine.
Yeah, I'll just say, you're just jealous that this hasn't happened to you.
I am very jealous. And, I was a nerd in high school. I didn't have this. I was on AOL. I didn't have these nerdy skill sets, which is probably good. So the group enter the bathroom after it's ablaze with fire extinguishers, and they see that the killers are starting to reform from the black blood on the ground. Very Terminator 2-like style. Just creepier and slower. So good pull there. Mm-hmm. An arm forms like from the ground and reaches for them, and they run. And Kate points out that they are not screwed. Sam is screwed because they're only after Sam. And Dina calls Kate a monster, and Kate says, I'm just making sense, and I'm with Kate. So sorry. They're only after one of us. You're going to have to die.
Yeah.
So not really. I'd probably die with my friends. But nothing can stop these killers.
Logical.
So Dina...
You can't also call her disloyal because she tried until she realized they can't be killed.
Yeah, she's risked her life like at least 3 times by now. So I'm not a monster. I just want to live past the age of 16.
Yeah, and I was even saying that. I was saying like to myself while I was watching this movie, just like, fuck you mean she's a monster? She's a realist.
Yep, exactly. So Dina sticks up for Sam, but Sam cuts her off and agrees with Kate. And she heads out of the classroom where they're hiding to confront the killers. So at this point, the only killer that is reformed fully is the Nightwing Killer. And in a very Voorhees-like way, he approaches Sam, who is awaiting her fate. Meanwhile, our brilliant hero Josh thinks of something while seeing the newspaper clipping of a headline that I guess is just hanging out in this classroom that says Camp Nightwing Massacre survivor C. Berman saw, C as an initial C, Berman saw the witch, in quotes, on this headline. And the group opens the classroom door just in time to pull Sam back into the room, slamming the door behind them and saving her life. So now the Nightwing Killer is on the outside of the door with his axe, trying to chop through it like Jack Torrance. And the group discusses C. Berman, who saw the witch like... Hey everyone, we thank you for listening to Horror Movies Hub Presents, and we hope you are enjoying the show. I just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about shophmh.com, the official store for Horror Movies Hub. And we have a great sale happening there. All our shirts are soft, semi-fitted, so they look great on every body type. Trust me, they look great on me, they will look great on you. And they feature original in-house designs, and many of them are on sale at a great value. Beyond our horror and Halloween shirt collection, we are also the official shop of Smart Wrestling Fan, and we have original, one-of-a-kind, customizable breast cancer shirts as well. As many of you know, my wife Lorraine is currently a breast cancer warrior, and Lorraine herself assisted me in creating many of these designs. Support a small business and a good cause by ordering yours today at shophmh.com. Again, that's shophmh.com for original horror shirts and beyond. And now, back to the show. Sam, just like Sam did, and Kate looks up C. Berman's phone number in the white pages because that still was a thing in 1994. And they get her answering machine, which was also a thing in 94.
Whoa.
Dina starts talking about how they need to, how they need her to answer. You know, they're leaving a message because they need to know how to survive the witch, and Berman never answers. Meanwhile, the Nightwing Killer reaches through one of the holes in the door he has carved out with his axe and grabs Simon by the hair. And this is actually like a scene from The Shining, shot for shot, but not the famed similar door scene with Jack Torrance and the axe, but it's when he's actually locked in the deep freezer. So that's another nice tribute to The Shining here. So so he grabs Nightwing Killer grabs Simon by the hair, and Josh picks up a compass and stabs the killer in the hand with it with the pointy end. And this makes Nightwing let go of Simon, so maybe they do feel some sort of pain in their undead possessed state. Otherwise, why let go, right?
Yeah. Just like, oh no, I guess we'll heal that later.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess maybe they feel pain momentarily. I don't know, but there's a reason he let go. So all of this is going on, and Sam continues to read the newspaper clipping about C. Berman, the survivor of the camp massacre, and it says that Sam connects that the reason Berman survived is because she technically died. Berman died and was resuscitated. So now they just need to stop Sam's heart and bring her back. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That's what I just call a Wednesday night.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't.
Well, I guess you don't want to come over Wednesday.
Probably not.
So at this point, Nightwing is in the classroom, but the group has escaped away in their trusty ambulance, and it's almost like their version of the van in Scooby-Doo. You know, I like it. So we cut to Sheriff Good. He's approaching a doorstep. We don't know whose doorstep. He goes to knock, and then he thinks better of it, and he just passes a note through the mail slot that says, "It's happening again." So now we know that Good knows something, so why didn't he believe these kids? Or did he not just want them to know that he believed them because, you know, it is the undead killing people? But we know he must know something if he writes it's happening again.
Or maybe he just didn't want to believe it was happening again. Maybe something affected him.
Right, that's true. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see. All right, so ready for breaking and entering number 3 or 4?
Well, I mean, they're good at it, so I'm not surprised.
They're like ninjas. We go to a supermarket where Simon works, and they get some drugs from the pharmacy. And because Kate and Simon sell drugs, they're experts on all of these pills. So Simon explains to Sam and to Dina what order that Sam needs to take the pills. And after she takes the drugs in a certain order, her heart will stop, and they will bring her back with an adrenaline pen, Pulp Fiction style. Ever see Pulp Fiction?
No.
We won't be
I want to see that movie, though. I haven't had anybody to see it with.
You should. Oh, the good news is you can watch a movie by yourself.
Or I could come over Wednesday and we can kill ourselves together, apparently.
I'll stop your heart, resuscitate you, and show you how I did it with the movie Pulp Fiction. So they lay another trap with blood and such, and Simon and Josh take their positions, which is to secure the exits, while Sam and Dina have another moment, and Sam starts swallowing the pills. And all the while, Kate is filling a handbasket with various items of the supermarket. Then we hear a strange noise and the showdown is about to begin. Simon is armed with the stupid box cutter. All of these breaking and enterings, and we couldn't get a gun. We couldn't find a place with like a shotgun.
Or like a knife. It's just a box cutter.
Right, or anything. Yes, a steak knife.
Or steak.
Or frozen steak.
Oh, I meant like a wooden steak, but yeah.
Yeah, so he's got a box cutter against the undead. And that's okay. Good luck. So Dina continues to put pills down a groggy Sam's throat, and more creepy noises ensue as Simon and Josh start walking through the store. And Sam pukes, which has to clear her body of some of the drugs, so this is not going as planned. And Skull Mask arrives. And so at this point, when Skull Mask arrives, what's her name? Not Dina, Kate. Kate has like a can and a lighter to do a can of whoop ass. She's got like the aerosol can and a lighter to make like fireballs and stuff. And she sets Skull Mask on fire. And that doesn't really do too much though. And Sam is still alive, and Dina drags her to a tank where a lobster is chilling, like in the deli seafood section. And
that lobster got so much screen time.
So much. And Kate is being stalked by Skull Mask, who is no longer on fire, and he finds her and they fight. And in this melee, the bread cutter is turned on at the deli. So Ruby shows up and creeps up on Sam from behind, but on Simon from behind, Ruby Lane. And Simon is faster than Ruby, spins around and stabs her in the neck with the box cutter. So maybe effective after all. Nightwing is after Josh, and Skullface stabs Kate in the stomach with a knife and unceremoniously puts her head through a bread slicer in a very brutal and awesome death scene.
Yeah, it was very brutal. It was also like it hung on for so long. They delayed that death. Like they put her head in front of that thing. It was like, just do it already. Well, it was like a solid minute. They had that head getting ready.
I wasn't sure if any of these characters would die. Our main characters, the main protagonists. So I thought that tease was effective because I thought for sure she would be saved, but nope. Because there's 2 more movies in this, and they've done a pretty good job of showing us that this is the team. But like all good slasher movies, someone in the team has to die, if not a couple people. So her face goes through a bread slicer. And fun fact, or fear fact, as I should say, they actually had a debate on this on set, if a bread cutter would actually go through a human skull. And to settle it, they got a watermelon and put it through there. And when it sliced the watermelon in bits and pieces, the entire crew cheered because they really wanted that scene in. And I like that, but I also wonder, because it's like, you already have a couple plot holes here, and you don't care about the accuracy of music to the year of the movie is based. So why right?
Is a watermelon equal a human skull as well?
That's the other thing. I don't know. That's worth maybe making a Google search on. Like, is that the equivalent?
Or because I know like a lot of workshop saws have like safety precautions when it touches flesh. I mean, a bread cutter doesn't have any sort of safety precautions at all.
That's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah,
the fact that maybe that's why they thought like, okay, if it's a hard thing, it automatically stops. So they tested the watermelon. So there you go.
Hopefully the next death will be more believable.
Oh, it certainly is. And at this point, we know that not all of our protagonists are going to make it out of the story alive. And I'm very curious of who, if anyone, will survive this. Because at this point, I was convinced maybe the whole gang was going to survive because they're doing a good job of having other people die that weren't these main ones. But now no one's safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Josh and Simon are running, and they both stop in their tracks when they see that Kate is dead, or what's left of her. And they look at each other, and out of nowhere, Nightwing puts his axe through Simon's head.
Like no build up, just think.
Nope. Very sudden jump scare like shocking moment. So the drug dealers are dead. In old school slashers, it was the fornicators and party animals who died. So maybe in modern ones, it's only the drug dealers who die.
So Wednesday's gonna be crazy.
Yep, Wednesday's gonna be a hell of a party.
Yeah.
So this leaves Josh, Dina, and a sort of alive Sam. Dina is drowning Sam in the lobster tank as they hold each other's hand, and it's kind of sweet and kind of sad and a little dark. And Josh is running from Skullface, who is about to kill Josh while Dina is being surrounded by Ruby and Nightwing. But then Sam dies, and the trio of killers, yes, a weird moment to cheer, but it's kind of true because then the trio of killers vanish, leaving Dina and Josh alive, and Sam is dead. But then Josh runs to get the pins, and they bring Sam back to life after injecting her numerous times and applying CPR. So 3 out of the 5 heroes are still left alive at this point. What do you think of this movie thus far at this point?
I feel like it's a weird roller coaster of stuff to expect and stuff not to expect. Because I feel like you expected a lot more. I felt like, because this is a slasher film, and if there's anything I know about slasher films, even while not being too experienced, is that people die. I was expecting, and knowing like the point you brought up, how often they've kept them alive, I didn't expect them to die.
Yep.
And now I was like, oh, now we're gonna get the classic non-happy ending. Everybody's gonna die, and then no, they end up surviving, and yada yada yada. It's a very roller coaster of cliches.
It is, and so it is a good mixture of classic tropes and also some surprises. So they follow a lot of the slasher rules, and they also break some. So that's pretty cool.
I agree.
It's good to see, something. I love classic slashers. Like 80s slashers are my favorite horror subgenre.
80s so long ago.
Yeah. Actually, 80s was so long ago to me too, because I'm old. But it's nice to see. Even I like modern slashers who follow the old tropes. Like, it's just fun movies to me. But it's good to see someone mixing it up a little bit. You know?
Absolutely. It was very fun. So much fun.
So, flash cut to the police station where Good is interviewing Josh, Dina, and Sam separately. And they're saying they went to the supermarket to get a prescription, even though it was closed. So that's weird. And Good says that the junkies, Kate and Simon, are to blame for everything. And he says that feels way too easy to him, kind of like a wink. Like, I know other shit's going on here, but unless you have another story to tell, it's best if we just pin this on Kate and Simon instead of an undead army possessed by a witch.
So we can wait for you to join us on our next fun little time.
Yes. So Good does seem like a decent guy, though, considering he's a cop. And he apologizes to Dina for not listening to her sooner. And at least I got the impression that he did care.
Oh, yeah.
He's not really trying to blame this on Kate and Simon because he thinks they deserve to die, but they're already dead. And what's he supposed to tell the town, kind of thing? And you actually see concern in his eyes. So, meanwhile, Josh is next to Martin, the young janitor we saw in the beginning of the film. And Martin is handcuffed to a chair, and he asks Josh for help. And Josh tosses him a paper clip because that's all you need in movies to get out of handcuffs. Every single kid in this movie is a freaking genius.
And he got his card, too, so I'm just like, okay, he's going to be another replacement on the team.
Yep.
We're just drafting people at this point. Just call this the NFL 2021 draft, all right?
Exactly. And I think this is safe to say it's a tease to what we can see in the other 2 movies. You're right, Josh has Martin's business card, and Martin says he owes him one. So the 3 survivors exit the station, and it's morning now. So it's been a very long night, and Sam's mom is there and pulls her away from the group. And Sam says she will see Dina tonight and kisses Dina in front of her mom, who is not happy with this. But all it took was being stalked by the undead and death itself for her to find her own inner strength and come out. So, yeah, that's a very heartwarming moment.
Absolutely. I was so happy. I was like, finally.
Right. And it's good. I like that. And that's it's a good trope in a lot of these horror movies is about finding inner strength of any genre. You know, a lot of times, with slashers, you usually get the final girl with the one survivor, but she found her inner strength. And this one's a bit deeper, where we see that Sam has found her inner strength to come out. And so that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So it's now nighttime, and Sam is over at Dina's, and she gives Sam a mixtape. And man, do I miss mixtapes.
Ew! I need to have like a button. Talk about how old you are.
Oh, I'm glad you think 44 is old, because you'll be there before you know it.
I don't think mixtapes are old. I had mixtapes.
I like how you said mixtapes, not me. I say I'm 44.
Oh, no, you're
old.
old.
Mixtapes are old. You're old, but not mixtapes.
No, I watched VSSs. I went to Blockbuster.
You did go to Blockbuster.
Yeah.
So not sure how Sam was allowed over, but pretty cool she is. So we know we're about to get more, because this movie's going on, and, seemingly, well, first of all, it's a trilogy, but besides that, the movie hasn't ended, even though the undead situation has seemingly been resolved. So the phone rings, and Dina answers it, and there's silence. Dina is about to hang up, and a mysterious caller finally speaks, and it's C. Berman. And she saying, "You're still alive." And then she asks if they touched the bones or saw her face, the witch's face. And we see Sam, who is hearing her name being whispered by otherworldly voices. And Berman informs Dina that they may have stopped the killers, but that didn't stop her, meaning the witch, because she makes the rules. We get scenes of a witch in a cave with the killers' names carved in stone, and a new name magically appears, Samantha Frazier, or Sam. Dina turns around, and there's Sam, and she stabs Dina in the stomach. So while all of this stuff is going on, Josh is in a chat room while listening to The Day I Tried to Live by Soundgarden. So there we get some more foreshadowing stuff.
And good music.
Or aftershadowing. Excellent music, excellent band. And Josh is telling his online friend about the truth behind the killings, and that Kate and Simon weren't the real killers. They were brave. Meanwhile, above him, he's in the basement, above him in the living room, Sam and Dina are fighting. And Josh is just typing away.
Because he assumes
yes.
Something.
Exactly. And Dina grabs him from behind, and they go to the kitchen. I was expecting to see Dina dead. Did you think Dina was going to survive this?
No, absolutely. I thought she was going to die. I thought she was going to die. You'd see Sam walking away, limping or something, and then fade to black,
Exactly. So I was shocked to see that was Dina that grabbed him from behind, and she takes her brother up to the kitchen, where Sam is tied up with the phone cord and making Reagan Exorcist-like noises. It's pretty creepy and pretty cool. And Dina says, "I'm going to get you back, Sam." And Sam, possessed, lunges forward, and then we get a "to be continued." But then we have an after scene. Josh and Dina are sitting on a living room floor as a woman is telling them info. And we know this woman is Berman, we can assume, and is played by Jillian Jacobs, who I'm a big fan of, which people may know from Community and other shows like Love. So Jillian Jacobs, not sure how to pronounce that first name, but yep. So that's exciting for me, because I'm a big Jacobs fan, despite me not knowing how to pronounce her first name. And she starts showing them photos of her at Nightwing, and we get some scenes of the next movie with flashes of all the killers doing their horrible things. And it says, "Times change, evil doesn't, coming soon, Fear Street, 1978.
Okay, so that answers a question for me, because I don't remember that ending scene. Maybe I accidentally turned it off too quickly.
Might have turned it off too. You need to go back and watch. It's pretty cool. And it'll make you immediately want to see the other one, which I think we should cover soon.
So that was the biggest question. Is just they're setting up for a sequel, and then I'm looking at the years of the other Fear Streets. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yep. Nope. With the next one, 78. Then we get the one in 1666.
Which is a big time jump.
Yep. So
people will be talking like this.
So the songs I was complaining about, I wasn't complaining about the music itself. It's awesome, but these are anachronistic songs, meaning the characters can hear them as we can hear them. And they played Only Happy When It Rains by Garbage and More Human Than Human by White Zombie, but both of those weren't released until 1995. Your Woman by Whitetown wasn't released until 97. Machine Head by Bush was on their 94 album, but that single but it was then removed and it was released as a single in 1996. And Firestarter by Prodigy also was released in 96. So something tells me that the filmmaker Lee Janiak did not like her selection of choices for songs but in the 90s up until 95 and beyond.
Did that just like change? Is the number of the years so important that they're like, well, we know that all the music we want to use is later, but we can't change the year.
Yes, exactly. And a couple other fear facts. At one point, Josh is walking past Kate in the hallway, and he recites the famous Konami code: up, down, left, right, BA, start.
Yeah.
And that brought lots of flashbacks to me.
You got it wrong, by the way.
What is it? It's up, down,
down, left, right.
Oh, okay.
And I'm the young one. And then he's going to pull this. Oh, goodness. Oh, my goodness.
So actually, the first time he says it, it is the up, down, left, right, BA, start. The one you're thinking of, I believe, is up, down, left, right, BA, start.
Yes.
Yes. Both are codes that worked, I think.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Perhaps not.
Oh, screw me for being wrong. Because that's the one I know by heart. Just the up, down.
Yes. I probably just left out an up. I know the up, down one is for certain, but I thought there was another one as well.
Oh, okay.
That's a cheat code, of course, made famous by Konami. And the first known use of this code was actually in 1985's game Gradius.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that game. I have pretty good video game knowledge, and I've never heard of that game.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of from that era. I mean, I was a young child then, but I do remember that. Yeah. So, that is our Fear Street 1994. And so what do you think overall there, Christian?
Overall, I feel like this movie would be more special to me if I was more well versed into horror. I feel like it's a better movie for people like you who have watched horror for such a long time.
Interesting. I didn't expect that. I thought this would be a good you think just because there's so many kind of callbacks to classic slashers?
Not only that, I just feel like there's a lot of cliches that I feel like are underappreciated on me.
That's probably very true, but still a good story and in your age group more than mine.
Absolutely. I've been giving ratings the last two ones, so I figured I might as well do this one. I was thinking about this a long time because I do think it's really good, but I don't think, in my opinion, it's as good for me. It's my personal opinion. It's as good as me as Poltergeist and Oculus. So I think I'll give it a 7.
Out of 100, that's very low.
Out of 10.
Okay, very good. I don't rate movies when I review them professionally, like, when I actually write a review article, because I just say if I like it or not. It's hard to do. I will say I like this a lot, and if I were to do like a 5-star system, I would probably give it 3.5 stars.
Okay.
There was a couple plot holes that are just easily avoided. Yeah, that's about a 7. I just don't know how to do 10. That's why I don't like IMDb that much. 10 stars. My God. But that's a lot of stars.
Like 5, like 2.5.
Yeah.
So I get it equal, but it's just put it to 5 stars.
I'm a pothead. We got to keep it simple.
Oh my goodness. Give it excessive rating.
3.5 bongs out of 5. And no, I really enjoyed this. I'm not picking on the movie by any stretch. It's just there's a lot of the couple plot holes they did have. To me, it was just, I don't want to call it lazy writing because I would not describe the script as lazy at all. No. But it's kind of like they just called it in, like the whole like, ooh, you disturbed the grave of the witch by a car accident.
Yeah, that made me roll my eyes pretty hard. I was just like,
Yeah, the inconsistency of who the killers go after. I know it's supposed to be only those that had Sam's blood, but they
you had all this great dialogue and all this great soundtrack and theatrical effects, and that's your reason that the witch is pissed. Like, come on.
Couldn't think of anything else, or have her grave disturbed by, I don't know, these kids are breaking into anything else. How about, we're gonna go try to dig up the grave of the fear witch because they don't believe in it or something. Just anything
that's instantly better. Like, and even that's still kind of predictable, But it's like it's instantly better because I feel like that's the biggest problem with this movie. It's just there's a lot of I don't want to say lazy writing either, but it's more like they focus their time on other things and they kind of just said a placeholder and they kind of just kept the placeholder.
Yeah. But the dialogue, I really enjoyed the dialogue. Very entertaining movie from beginning to end. Very witty. And for a movie with lots of dark themes, it still felt upbeat and kind of cheery for a slasher.
Yeah, I was like, that's one of those. I feel like it's good. It's one of those horror movies that like it's pretty depressing, but like it's kind of fun.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't leave you like I wanted to see the next one immediately. And the way that so initially this was going to be released in the theaters a month apart. So, 1 month we got part 1, the next month we get part 2 and so on. But then COVID happened and they released it to Netflix and then they released each one. I want to say it was like 3 weeks apart. So pretty cool, though, the way they did it. And trilogies don't normally work that well, in my opinion, unless they're filmed at the same time by the same person. And that makes a huge difference in this trilogy.
Yeah, because they were all released like very, very close to each other, right?
Yeah, it was like, one came out, then a couple weeks later, another one. And
okay. Because I actually I feel like just outside of horror movies, just my knowledge, I feel like I can argue the opposite. I feel like, because like, think of it this way, like the reason Endgame was so popular, Marvel movie, was because of how long people waited. The reason that everybody wanted to see Star Wars again is because of how long they waited. So like, sometimes the space in between makes up just as much, but it also could work in the downfall.
Yeah, like Star Wars, the last 3 movies were not good.
Oh, no, they weren't.
Right, and
we're
different
Star Wars fans. Both don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. I liked episode 7 because it was just nostalgia porn, which I love.
Yeah.
But then they didn't know what to do with the next 2.
You know that my favorite Star Wars movie wasn't even part of that trilogy, and it was released around the same time, which is Rogue One.
Oh, that one's tied with Empire Strikes Back for me. I don't even know which one I like more at this point. I loved Rogue One. So good. And it just goes right into A New Hope, but that's a different podcast.
Yes, I was about to say, it's just like, let's get back to horror.
You enjoyed Oculus and Poltergeist more. Do you think you like more of the supernatural horror more than slashers, or do you just think you need to start with an earlier slasher?
I feel like maybe I'm just going to say this. I feel like I'll appreciate this movie more the more knowledge I have of horror.
Okay, so maybe before we see Fear Street Part 2, we should check out some more classics. What about if you and I cover Nightmare on Elm Street next?
Ooh, yes, I would love to. I've never seen that movie, and it's like this is one of the biggest horror movies ever.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to revisit it and see it through your eyes. It makes me... Am
I going to have to watch like the triple extended version that's 8 hours long?
No.
Okay.
No, they don't have that version, thankfully. I own a Nightmare on Elm Street documentary and a Friday the 13th documentary, and those are 6 hours apiece.
Jeez.
And I love them. I put them on sometimes when I'm doing a bunch of things around the house or just working and need stuff in the background. But yeah, that's and it's well worth it, but not until you've seen every movie in those franchises. Otherwise, it's just spoiler city.
Yeah, but that's what we're doing, aren't we?
Yeah, let's do a Nightmare on Elm Street, the original.
Let's keep exploring horror movies.
Yeah, Wes Craven, rest in peace. The same guy that brought us Scream. His first, not his first horror hit per se, because that would have been Last House on the Left, but his first major blockbuster horror movie was A Nightmare on Elm Street, and I love it. And we see a young Johnny Depp in it, but we'll watch it anyways.
All right. Well, good. Sounds good.
Yeah, so we will do that. So I want to thank everyone for listening. Please check us out on our social medias. You just have to go to horrormovieshub.com where you'll get a ton of original content. But at the bottom of that page, you will see our social medias. Please follow us. Check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe and ring the bell. Soon, Christian and I will probably still be doing a podcast, but we'll also record it to release as a video on YouTube.
On Wednesday, because we're hanging out then.
Yeah, on Wednesday. And maybe I'll video me resuscitating a Christian. You know, this is how you do it. I'll have the EpiPens lined up. You're in good hands.
Okay.
Don't worry. I think the neighbors are teenagers, so that means they know how drugs work, and they can break in anything we need them to. They'll have all the instructions.
They don't have alarms. I know how to get rid of those. Look, you've been on AOL. You know how to get past alarms.
Right. Oh my, but thank you, Christian, once again for joining me. Thank you, listeners. Please tell your friends about us. It really helps us. And whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on, please give us a high rating. That helps us oodles.
Even the smallest amount of effort helps us so much.
Oh my gosh, it really does. And we are already humbled by the audience we have, and we look forward to doing more of this. So thank you for joining me. Thank you all out there. And until next time, goodbye.